Today, we will learn about the law of conservation of energy. This law explains one of the most fundamental truths in science, that energy can never be created or destroyed. The law states, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only change from one form to another. For example, electrical energy can be converted into light and heat, but the total amount of energy remains the same. This is why we say there is no loss of energy, only conversion. Let's look at a pendulum. When the pendulum is at its highest point, it has maximum potential energy. As it swings down, that potential energy gradually changes into kinetic energy. At the lowest point, it has maximum kinetic energy. This energy keeps shifting, but the total energy, potential energy, it is the stored energy due to position. Kinetic energy is the energy of motion. The total energy remains constant. Only energy form changes. This proves that energy is simply converted from one form to another. Potential energy is converted into kinetic energy and back again, but the sum always stays the same. Water at the top of the fall has high potential energy due to its height. As it falls, this energy converts into kinetic energy. Again, the form changes, but the total energy remains constant. A roller coaster is a fun way to see this law in action. At the top of the track, the roller coaster has maximum potential energy. As it goes down, the potential energy is converted into kinetic energy. When it climbs up again, the kinetic energy changes back into potential energy. The roller coaster demonstrates continuous energy transformation. You can see that the potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy, then kinetic energy again gets converted into potential energy, but the total energy remains constant. Total energy is equal to E. The total energy is the summation of potential energy and kinetic energy. At point A, roller coaster is at its highest position. Here its potential energy is maximum, while kinetic energy is almost zero. So, potential energy plus 0 is equal to total energy E. So, at point A, potential energy is equal to E. At point B, the roller coaster is at its lowest point. Here, its kinetic energy is maximum because speed is highest. Potential energy is almost zero. So total energy is equal to kinetic energy, or you can say kinetic energy is equal to E. At point C, it has both kinetic energy and potential energy, but their sum still equals the total constant energy. Let's say potential energy is E1. Then I can say E1 plus kinetic energy is equal to E. And if you want to calculate kinetic energy, it would be equal to E, which is the total energy, minus potential energy E1. So, total mechanical energy stays constant. E is equal to potential energy plus kinetic energy. Potential energy and kinetic energy shift depending on position. No energy is lost. It is only transformed from one form to another. This is the essence of the law of conservation of energy. Let's solve a numerical example. If the total energy is 800 joule and kinetic energy at point C is 600 joule, calculate various energies at A, B and C. At A, the total energy is purely potential energy. So that would be equal to total energy, 800 joules. At B, energy is purely kinetic energy. So it is 800 joule at B. At C, kinetic energy is 600 joule and therefore the potential energy would be 800 minus 600, which is equal to 200 joules. A stone resting on top of a wall has potential energy of 200 joule. As it falls down at one point, say A, between the wall and ground somewhere, its potential energy is found to be 80 joule. What would be its kinetic energy at point A? And what would be the kinetic energy of the stone just before it hits the ground? Okay. So at the highest point, potential energy is maximum. It is equal to the total energy. Kinetic energy plus potential energy is equal to total energy. At the highest point, kinetic energy is 0. So potential energy is equal to total energy, okay, which is 200 joule. At point A, okay, you can see point A here. Okay, let's use this. Kinetic energy plus potential energy is equal to total energy. Now substitute the values that you know. Kinetic energy plus potential energy. It is given. It is 80 joules at point A. So kinetic energy plus 80 joules is equal to 200 joules, the total energy. And therefore kinetic energy would be 200 minus 80, which is equal to 120 joules. At point B, kinetic energy would be maximum, okay, just before it hits the ground, let's say, okay. So kinetic energy would be maximum. The stone would have acquired maximum velocity, okay, before hitting the ground. So at point B, kinetic energy is equal to total energy, which is equal to 200 joules. Water stored at a height has high potential energy. As water flows down, this potential energy changes into kinetic energy. The fast moving water will rotate a turbine. So a generator which is connected with the turbine converts the mechanical energy of the rotating turbine into electrical energy. Let's summarize this process. Potential energy gets converted into kinetic energy, which ultimately gets converted into electrical energy. No energy is created or destroyed. It only transforms. That's the law of conservation of energy. What did we learn in this session? So let's summarize today's session. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It only transforms from one form to another. In a roller coaster, energy continuously shifts between potential and kinetic, but the total energy stays the same. A falling stone loses potential energy and gains kinetic energy, keeping the total constant. In a hydroelectric power plant, water's potential energy is converted step by step into electrical energy. This shows us that the law of conservation of energy applies everywhere, from simple motion to large power stations.